Xinjiang is a magnet, drawing you closer and closer. Bright, optimistic, always be a proud part of China. I would say every country in the world need to come up with their own development strategy. Learn what China has been doing over the past several decades, including Xinjiang. Development is the hard truth. So how do you develop? Why do they want to separate China? They mean evil for the Chinese people. If you really care about Xinjiang, we should be on the same page. But if you want to weaponize so-called human rights or any other thing, then you may be considered as public enemy number one. Let me tell you, over my dead body, you can never achieve that goal. Well, in terms of the potential and the overreach of the assets and the potential for Xinjiang to develop its tourism, Xinjiang is unmatched, not only in China, but possibly throughout the world. Why? Because first of all, the landmass is big, 1.6 million square kilometers, and Xinjiang is very diverse. It traverses not only a huge area, but includes very diversified geographical features as well as cultural heritages of all sides through different ages. So anyone who wants to really enjoy the tourist potentials in Xinjiang will feel like Xinjiang is a magnet, drawing you closer and closer. So I would call on anyone in the world to visit Xinjiang at your own choosing and enjoy the diversity and the beauty and the extraordinariness of Xinjiang. So I think the challenge for Xinjiang is, on the one hand, everyone agrees that Xinjiang need to achieve a very high level of rapid economic development, just like the rest of China has been doing for all these decades since 1978. And then, on the other hand, the cultural heritage, the diversities, the languages, for example, the religious traditions, you name it, not only of the Uyghurs, but of all the other nationalities, should be fully preserved, especially in this rapid, transformative AI age. So I think we need to balance these two: rapid economic development to improve the living standards of the people, on the one hand, building up infrastructure, roads, connectivity of all kinds, technological connectivity, financial connectivity, to making sure that nobody will be left behind. But on the other hand, for the Uyghurs, for the Kazakhs, for the Kyrgyz, for the all the other nationalities in Xinjiang, all the heritage should be preserved, not only for our generation, but for multiple generations to come, for thousands of years to come. And I hope AI can become an enable people in Xinjiang of different nationalities to really preserve and protect their heritage for the benefit of future generations. Well, over the past several decades, Xinjiang has been remarkable in several things. One is to achieve intra-Xinjiang connectivity. And the tunnel you mentioned in Tian Shan Mountain is just one of the numerous highly remarkable and sometimes engineering very challenging projects. So by today, even though Xinjiang is very big in terms of the land mass, as I mentioned, 1.6 million square meters altogether, it is easier right now to travel from the eastern point to the western point, from the northern point to the southern point, and also keep in mind that Xinjiang borders with 8 countries altogether. Because now that Xinjiang has become, very importantly, as a hub, it has become a bridgehead, if I can say, throughout the Eurasian connectivity. So I think huge economic investment in building up the connectivity, and also the more scientific way of developing the economy in Xinjiang, for example, focusing more and more on solar power, on advanced way of technological development. So I think all this adds up together to make sure that Xinjiang has not only developed rapidly over the past several decades, But the potential for Xinjiang is almost unlimited, if I may say so. And going forward, I think all the potentials in Xinjiang can be liberated, and people throughout Xinjiang of different ethnic groups can expect to enjoy higher level of living. So, if I may say just one word, the future of Xinjiang is promising, and we need to continue to work very hard to make sure all the potentials in Xinjiang are fully emancipated for the benefit of people in Xinjiang. Well, I would say every country in the world, including all countries in the global south, the developing countries as we generally call them, need to come up with their own development strategy, which need to be tailor-made to the circumstances in their own country. Having said that, I think they can also learn what China has been doing over the past several decades, including Xinjiang, as a point of general principle, which is very important, very unique. First of all, maintaining stability at all cost. You cannot lose your stability. For example, sometimes there are problems which need to be solved, of course, but sometimes there are alien, foreign vilification, falsification, allegations of different kinds, for example, without being backed up by substance. And then if you lose stability in Xinjiang, or in China as a whole, or in any other country, then you forfeit your chance of economic development. That's number one. Number two is maintaining peace at all cost, meaning you should not be, for example, tempted to use war as a means to solve any problem. In Xinjiang, which borders with Afghanistan, the American-led war in Afghanistan lasted 20 years. How could people in Afghanistan expect to grow their economy when the war raged on for 20 years? It's a bad example of how a country could be destroyed, and the people in that country will be deprived of their chance of development. That gives more incentive to everyone in Xinjiang to treasure peace and to value more stability. And then you need to develop. Deng Xiaoping and many Chinese leaders have always said, development is the hard truth. So how do you develop? Different countries or people in different parts of China, in Xinjiang included, need to come up their very unique way of development, because your development strategy should be suited to the circumstances in your region or in your own country. Because otherwise, if you run against the practical matters on the ground, then it will be a strategy of failure. But if you can really understand what's your strengths and weaknesses, for example, how can you come up with a tailor-made strategy to make sure that all your potentials can be developed? And then your development does not happen in a vacuum. For Xinjiang, for example, they need to coordinate their development with the rest of China. And then if you are a country in Africa or in Latin America, you also need to really understand what are the megatrends in the world of today and how to coordinate your development with the rest of the region or the rest of the country. Final point, because this AI revolution is reshaping and reorganizing everything in the world, Xinjiang is not an exception. Xinjiang needs to really catch up. And for any other country in the global south, the developing countries, and also for the developed countries, they need to shake up. They need to really come up with their own strategy of how to use AI to accelerate your own development and how to avoid being caught up on the wrong side of the AI divide. Don't be on the wrong side of AI divide. Always push forward and figure out a way and role for yourself to play, regardless of whether you are a country or a region, for example, or an international organization. You need to be fully plugged in this AI. Now, another additional point, which is very important, in order to really embrace all the benefits of AI revolution, you need to be very powerful as a generator of electricity. You need to come up with an energy security plan. I would say Xinjiang is doing a wonderful job because Xinjiang has been focusing on solar power, wind power, and power generation of all kinds. Now Xinjiang produces electricity not only for its own use, but also moves it out to the rest of China. I will not be surprised in the coming years or decades, Xinjiang will produce more power which can be exported to countries on its border, 8 countries altogether, including, for example, Kazakhstan and many other Central Asian countries. Why? Because when you look at the power generation, increasingly with new and renewable sources, of course, I think the efficiency in China is much better than in the neighboring countries. But even on that basis, China wants to double its power generation in the coming years and decades. Why? Because we expect that in the AI age, you need much more electricity.